So, Apple just did the most Apple thing ever. They didn't kill the dynamic island, they didn't swap it for a tiny Android-style hole punch, and they definitely didn't invent some magical physics-defying invisible camera. Instead, they just quietly shrunk it. And honestly, this might be the biggest visual shakeup we've seen in years, even if it sounds like the most boring update on paper. I know. Hey guys, the hole in the screen is slightly smaller, is hardly the headline of the century. But stick with me for a second, because once you see the chess move Apple is playing here, you realize this isn't just a cosmetic tweak. It's a setup. It's one of those classic Apple moves where they change one tiny thing, and suddenly the phone you're holding in your hand right now looks like a relic from the Stone Age. Let's talk about the iPhone 18 Pro. Let's be real for a minute. The dynamic island has been frozen in time since 2022. Think about it. We've seen the screens get bigger, the brightness go through the roof, and we even survived the whole lightning to USB-C drama. But that floating pill? Untouchable. It's like Apple declared it a protected national park. But according to Ice Universe, who, let's be honest, is usually annoyingly right about these things, the iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max are finally putting that island on a diet. We're looking at a dynamic island that is roughly 35% smaller. That's not you might need a magnifying glass change. That's the kind of change where your friend looks at your phone across a dinner table and goes, "Wait, is that the new one?" And we all know Apple lives for that exact moment of social flex. Now, a few weeks ago, tech Twitter basically had a collective meltdown. Rumors started flying that Apple was finally killing the island entirely. The word on the street was a single punch-hole camera pushed to the left, very much like a Samsung or a Pixel. John Prosser talked about it. Korean outlets picked it up. It felt like we had finally cracked the code. And then, record scratch. Reality hit. Ross Young, the guy who was basically the only adult in the room when it comes to display leaks, stepped in and shut it down. Turns out, most of that whole punch hype was just a massive case of lost in translation. Chinese and Korean reports were being passed around like a game of telephone until they mutated into something way more dramatic than the truth. Apple isn't killing the island. They're just rearranging the furniture inside of it. So, how do you make the island smaller without breaking Face ID? Because right now, that little pill is crowded. You got the selfie camera, the infrared camera, and the flood illuminator all crammed in there like teenagers in a photo booth. But the latest leaks from Weibo suggest Apple is finally moving the flood illuminator onto the display. It'll be invisible, tucked away like a secret, which allows the visible cutout to shrink significantly. This is peak Apple behavior. While every other company is rushing to ship first-gen tech that looks like it was smeared with Vaseline, Apple waits. They let everyone else take the PR hits for buggy under-display cameras. They wait until the tech is so stable it doesn't feel like a science experiment. They aren't chasing the cleanest look at any cost. They're chasing the look that actually works 100% of the time. But wait, there's more. While everyone is arguing about the size of a pill, there's another leak that deserves your attention: the brightness. According to Mac Rumors, Apple's display requirement for the iPhone 18 are so aggressive that BOE, one of the biggest display suppliers on the planet, might not even be able to make them. Think about that. The current iPhone already hits 3,000 nits outdoors. I can see my screen in the middle of a desert bright. It's why is my phone brighter than the actual sun territory? And Apple looked at that and said, cool story. Make it brighter. What's sneaky here is the hierarchy. Right now, the regular iPhone and the Pro are pretty much neck and neck in brightness. But Apple does not let the cheap phone outshine the Pro for long. If the base iPhone 18 is getting a boost, you can bet your life the Pro models are going to get something truly ridiculous. Apple is many things, but subtle about their product tiers? Yeah, definitely not one of them. Here is the thing about this 35% smaller island. Apple probably won't even make a big deal out of it. There won't be a 10-minute presentation with a giant slide and a dramatic applause break. It's one of those upgrades you feel more than you notice. The screen just looks cleaner, more open, less crowded. And then you look back at last year's phone, and suddenly it looks busy. It looks cluttered. That is Apple's real superpower. They don't need to shout. They just let your brain do the comparison for them. And suddenly you're reaching for your credit card. So, will the dynamic island ever actually die? Almost certainly. The dream of a perfectly uninterrupted slab of glass. No holes, no notches, just pure screen is still the end goal. But it's not happening with the iPhone 18 Pro. This year is the transition. It's the cleanup phase. It's the internal reshuffle that makes the next big jump possible. Apple isn't rushing to be first to the no-hole finish line. They're setting the stage so that when they finally do remove it, it actually feels like a finished product, not a prototype. The iPhone 18 Pro isn't a revolution. It's the chess move before the revolution. And honestly, that might be more exciting. When Apple starts quietly changing the fundamentals instead of just chasing headlines, that's usually a sign that something massive is lurking right around the corner. They're being intentional. They're being calculated. They're being very Apple. So I've got to ask you guys, does a 35% smaller dynamic island actually matter to you? Or are you just sitting there, arms crossed, waiting for the day the iPhone becomes one perfect, uninterrupted sheet of glass? Because if Apple is making this move now, it's not an accident. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you team shrink the island or team kill it entirely? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 18 Pro, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you want to stay ahead of the curve on all things tech, make sure you're subscribed. Would you like me to compare these iPhone 18 Pro leaks to what we know about the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra next? Thanks for watching, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.